everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our Friday the 13th Spooktaculars. Today we got a fun one for y'all. It is the Friday the 13th Pamela's Tale miniseries, which is a Wildstorm series. It's the last Wildstorm series, actually. I think they did this one. They did like the Ash versus Jason versus Freddy one that we did for an actual episode. And then that was the last of it that they had of the franchise, I think. So then that copyright or whatever that they sold, or that they what is it called? I can't remember what they call it, but
rights.
Rights. Yeah, whoever got the rights to publish the comics went to another company called Avatar, which is the last two that we're gonna do from Avatar. And Avatar, I think we said this on the last one, but they're like a no holds bar place. They don't have any standards and practices, we'll say, where they can say whatever they want,
pretty much.
And get a little crazier. So, but these ones, I think these ones are better because they have to be a little tame. You know, they have to have a better story. You know, because you can't just show blood and guts all over the place. So, so anyway, this one's called Pamela's Tale. It is by Mark Draco and Sean Mall, who does the artwork, and. Yeah, so this one is actually very interesting because it is a tie-in to the first Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. It's called Pamela's Tale, which, Pamela Vorhees is Jason's mom. And we start off at Camp Crystal. Well, it's the town outside of Crystal Lake with the hitchhiker named Annie from the first movie. And they redo the whole beginning of that movie where she walks into a diner. She's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a new counselor." Yeah, and is there a bus that goes to the camp? And one of the guys is like, "I'll give you a ride." And so basically they do that whole thing, and then she gets picked up by someone in a Jeep who comes up after the guy drops her off. And it's Pamela. So, but it's modern day, or might I say modern day, but Friday the 13th one modern day. Yeah. So it's 1980. And she invites her, Annie, into the truck to give her a ride, which actually happens in the movie. Mm-hmm. Except when she does that, she starts telling her about her life. She's like, "Hey, can I?" This isn't in the movie. In the movie, it cuts away after she picks Annie up. And then mayhem starts happening at the camp or whatever. But here we get let me tell you about myself.
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, we got time. Let's chit chat."
Yeah, so she talks about herself, growing up in Ohio in what year was it? In 47 or something like that? Was it?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, 47. So a while ago now, and we see she's married to a dude named Elias who works in a mine.
He's just your normal big hunkin', everyday man. He's got normal
everyday man. I don't know about that. He's your everyday wife beating man.
Well, yeah,
he's a coal miner, by the way. They don't say when he mines. He's like, "Another day at the mines. Where's my beer? And it better not be warm.
Yeah.
Where's my cold beer?" And she actually has a cold beer that he breaks because he turns around too fast. But yeah, basically he's just one of those stereotypical, "Tuna casserole, you fucking bitch."
Tuna casserole again.
Yeah, exactly. What is this bullshit? So he abusive husband, and she
the whole time she has an inner monologue of I need to tell him something, but
it becomes apparent that what she needs to tell him is that she's pregnant, but he can't. She's basically scared to tell him because she knows he's gonna make her get rid of it or get rid of it himself or something, So she's too nervous about that, of course. But then one night he actually does beat the fuck out of her, and he actually do they make love in this first section?
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
I say make love, but basically he just he's so rough with her that she says, I think I almost lost a baby or whatever.
Yeah, she got a black eye basically.
Yeah, she got a black eye and some bruising, but apparently he I was so rough that the fetus Jason inside of her got roughed up too. And
yeah, and I mean there's the couch is overturned and there's some other stuff that's falling off the shelves. The room is a mess afterwards. And she's like, "It's like a whirlwind when he makes love," but she tries to kind of play it off, but definitely she's obviously like not doing well for after it.
Yeah, and so, but that's kind of how they say why Jason looks like Jason.
Yeah.
Like how he turns out to be disabled, we'll say.
So yeah, something along those
Whatever
lines.
happened, disfigured? I don't know what you'd say. So I guess because he's a little slow too, right? So he's got to be mentally disabled as well. So,
Yeah.
but that's how they say he gets his. Look, this is new lore. We're hearing new lore for the first time, folks.
Yeah, this is new for Matt. Matt's like, what?
I mean, I've read this. I read this one for sure. As I was reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember buying this one. So, but yeah, this one, it's nice that they tried to add to the movies. It kind of adds a more realistic or like a better, like it makes the story better because it like folds into the mythology or whatever, So, but yeah. So anyway, that night that she
starts to hear the baby.
She starts to hear the baby talking to her like, "Mommy, if he does it again, I'll die. Like you have to take care of us. You have to save us both. So you have to kill him." And so she's like, "Yes, Jason. Yes, I will kill him." So she picks up an axe, and it's like a lumberjack axe, like a double-sided axe or whatever. And she just proceeds to murder her husband pretty violently and just continue like cutting him up with it.
Yeah, just.
And then while she's doing it, Jason's like, "I love you, Mommy." And she's like, "I know, I love you too, Jason." And then she's like chopping. And so then she is able to like, I guess, light the place on fire to cover up her tracks. I don't know how that would cover up your tracks if you found a body that has all these axe cuts in it and everything, but the fire blew the axe at him and it kept hitting him over and over.
It just went back and forth.
The axe bounced through the cabin of the trailer and then killed him multiple times. And so, but either way, he's dead. She lights the place on fire. It blows up, and she proceeds to kind of go on the run, we'll say, from her past life. And then it cuts back to her and Annie back in the 80s, and she's talking. And she's like, we get to the famous scene in the movie where she's like, "Hey, isn't that the scene, or isn't that the sign for the camp?" And then Pamela's like, "Well, I know a shortcut. Let's go this way." And then Annie gets more freaked out. Then we cut to, I guess, Camp Crystal Lake, where she ends up. Pamela ends up at Camp Crystal Lake in the 50s, of course. She's like, "I found my town finally. Like Jason led me here, like it was a calling or something." And then she's just talking to herself and ended up here, just happenstance. And then at this time in the 40s and 50s, this town is even more of a ghost town than it was before. There's no one there hardly, but it turns out there is a camp starting here at the lake, and they need. She starts working at the diner at first, and then becomes part of like the town people, and everybody likes her. And then
you're a great cook. You should come be the cook at this new camp that's opening up.
Yeah, and so she's like offered that job because she needs money, obviously, because she's about to have a baby now. It's been 9 months she's been here, and right when they offer that and she accepts, she starts having contractions and gives birth to a beautiful baby boy. And the best thing about this, they're in the hospital. She's on the table, be like, "Oh my God, it hurts so much." And the doctor's like, "Yeah, it's called nature, baby." Like, and he's got a cigarette in his mouth. He's got a cigarette. He's literally just like no gloves, reaching in there, grabbing Jason's
those
head.
pesky hormones.
Yeah, and he reaches in and he's like, "Oh my God, well, prepare yourself, ma'am. It's not gonna be pretty." And he pulls it out, and it's Jason, and he looks all deformed or whatnot, But she's like, "Oh, he's so perfect, my lovely Jason." And little Jason's like, "Mama, mama, mama." And yeah, that's pretty much the first issue. And then the second issue starts, and we see I guess she told that section that we just said, and Annie is now like, "I need to get out of this car." So she jumps out of the van the Jeep as she does in the movie, and starts to run away. But just like in the movie, she can't get away. Annie gets her throat slit. And Pamela then drags her back up into the Jeep and puts her on the seat, and then continues to tell the story to her.
Like straps her in. Like, anyway, where was I?
Where was I? You're silly for running away. But anyway, back to the story. So So yeah, we get her now. She's working at the camp, and we see there's like someone comes in. And they're like, Pamela, we need to talk to you about Jason. Something happened at his daycare or whatever. And like apparently the lady that watches him was like, I don't know what happened. I let him outside.
I can't watch him anymore though.
Yeah. He just came in, and then we see basically he's killed all these neighborhood cats in very horrible ways, like tied them to trees with like wire and cut them open and smashed their heads and everything, and just terrible things. And the woman who watches him is like, he brought me a severed cat's head or whatever and said like it was a present or whatever. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with your boy? And she's like, nothing's wrong with my boy Jason.
He's perfect.
Perfect. He doesn't mean to. He just thought he was being nice.
He don't know any better.
Yeah, and so she just like basically he's got some fucked up problems, but she just overlooks them because it's a motherly love. You can't get between a mother and the son, the love for her son. So
mothers love unconditionally, no matter what.
Yes. So she talks to the camp counselor or the head of the camp and says, "Hey, can Jason like come to the camp while I'm cooking here? Because he doesn't have anywhere to go." And they're like, "He's gonna love it.
It's
that
great.
Little scamp. He's gonna have so much fun with these other kids, and they're gonna play, and it'll be great."
And y'all are gonna watch him, right?
Of course. And so what ends up happening, I think we all know, is the classic story of the counselors on the lake with Jason.
They're like, oh, hey, so the kids are fine. They're all playing over there by the water, right? Why don't you and I go sneak away for 15 minutes or so? You know what I'm saying? Chicka, 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 wow.
Yeah, and they were like, they were like, oh, there's tons of counselors here, not just us. Which is true. There's multiple counselors. And this is the difference in the movie, I think. They changed the lore a little bit here. So Jason's like, huh? Huh?
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, he sees them running away into the woods, and he's like, oh, I must follow, or whatever. Like, and so he follows them, and he sees them fucking in the woods.
And I don't know if it's because the guy's like, yeah, take that in the words here on the page.
Yeah, he thinks that the guy is hurting her.
Yeah.
I don't know why he gets all like heroic or whatever.
But he's like, no, must stop evil man.
Yeah, and then the guy punches him, and then he runs away. And he's like, God damn it, I didn't mean to punch him or whatever, but he attacked me or whatever. And then they're running after him. They're still like kind of naked or whatever. And Jason's like, no! And he's running down the dock, and he just jumps in the water, and then he can't swim, and they just stare at him and let him drown. So it really is that they just don't help him at all, which is like, aren't you here? Isn't that your only job? Is to stop kids from drowning?
Well, we don't know how to swim either. We forgot to tell you.
Yeah. So like they changed the lore a little bit to where like instead of the counselors weren't there or they weren't paying attention, it was like they just watched him die, which I guess makes it a little bit better that she's killing camp counselors now. But then we see that a couple months later, the camp's still running. Those same kids and didn't get punished or anything. They're still there. They're still fucking. But guess what? Someone is on the loose now. Pamela is now hearing Jason in her head still, hearing him be like, Mommy, that's them. The ones who did it. And then, and so those kids, the same kids that watched Jason drown, go to a barn to fuck. And I believe this is actually one of the first scenes also in Friday the 13th.
It looked familiar.
There's a scene in Friday the 13th where there's a couple camp counselors that I think this is actually the first scene in the movie that sets it up. But where Pamela goes up there and kills them as they're having sex in some loft or whatever. And so that's like the classic scene. Then, as she's been telling this dead body of Annie this story in the Jeep the whole time.
Still listening, right, Annie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's just so quiet, and so finally she pulls up. And we are at the end of the movie. Like, we are literally, the Jeep pulls up, and we have the last girl who's alive. I can't remember her name in the movie. But she is, what is her name? Does she say her name? I don't think she says her name.
I don't think so.
I can't remember. But basically, she is like, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you, because she's not expecting the killer to be a woman. And then she's like, why don't you come with me? we have to go. I'll help you walk through the camp. I'm sure there's nothing wrong. Or she's like, no, those people are dead. She's like, well, we'll see about that or whatever. And then it ends. Like it just ends with cutting to inside the cab. You see Annie's dead body there, and that's how it ends because we know what happens at the end of the movie.
We know what's next.
So yeah, that was a really fun, I thought, addition to the mythology of Jason. What did you think, John?
Oh yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked the stepping away from the slasher. Actually, I didn't expect if we got a story like that in these that it was going to be anything as interesting. But it was fun since it was his mom. To give it a little bit more of the backstory on her was cool.
Because the only time she appears in the movie is just the very end of the first one when she's like, "They just let him drown. Kill her, mommy.
Oh, yeah.
Kill her for me, mommy."
He loved you.
Yeah, and then that's it. And then head gone. So
yeah, so it was fun, and the art in this one was I actually really liked. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, solid art. I like Mark and Draco's writing too. Like he wrote some series called what is it? Manhunter in the mid 2000s that I liked a lot. It was some like vigilante, kind of like she's like Batman but not rich or whatever. But she just goes around beating the shit out of people with her stick, her staff that she has. So,
nice.
But yeah, I liked that series. I believe he wrote and drew it, possibly, or at least he wrote it. I think. So, he's a good writer. I haven't seen him do much stuff recently. I don't know if he's still doing stuff or not, but yeah. So you enjoy this one? Would you recommend this one? You give it
I would
two thumbs up.
I would give it two slashing knives up.
There you go. Yeah.
For Pamela.
There you go. Yeah, I would give this one. Definitely check this one out if you can. Basically, all the Wildstorm ones. If you can find the Wildstorm ones, they're fun, and they're worth the read at least, or at least the collection to have them. Because I could read these ones like all day, just because it's like, oh yeah, it's just like a fun tryst through Friday the 13th land or whatever. Now, my only critique of this is because all of it takes place in the problem is the flashbacks, you can't see what she's doing during the flashbacks. But you assume she's still just driving that Jeep in circles or something. So, when was she able to kill all the people in the camp while she was telling the story?
Yeah.
That's my only problem. But it could be that once she killed Annie, she then disposed of everybody else and was telling her, and we were just recounting that to us as, the audience member for the rest, or as the reader for the rest of the story, instead of telling Annie who died. So that's the only way I could justify it. But they don't do that. You have to make that jump yourself. So, but what are you gonna do? It's fun. That's all I care about. But
For 2 issues, it was fun.
2 solid issues. Check that one out if you can find it. And let's see. Next one, we start off with the Avatar series. The first one of those, Bloodbath.
So we know something's going to happen.
Yeah, so check that one out next week. And, we will see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.